Good afternoon. My name is Lori Fry, and on behalf of the Alliance of Women in Workers' Compensation, I want to welcome you to our webinar. Today's event is a keynote from speaker Angie Nuttle entitled Say No to the Status Quo: 5 Self-Guiding Principles to Grow Your Vision and Progress. It will last approximately 1 hour and is being broadcast today, September 15th, 2022. Before we get started, I would like to thank our 2022 corporate sponsors for their support on hosting events such as this. They sponsor us not because they want their logos up on a screen, but they support our cause, which is to effect positive change in the workers' compensation industry through networking, supporting, mentoring, and collaboration. The Alliance is inclusive of all professionals in workers' compensation, regardless of career stage, with the belief that we can all learn from and support each other. Be sure to head to the Alliance website for all upcoming events. We are excited to be hosting webinars, collaboration sessions, as well as in-person events throughout 2022. Be sure to check back on our website for registration details. And if you cannot make one of our events, don't worry, all events are recorded and on demand for our followers. Our theme this year is Acknowledge, Adjust, Advance. Each quarter, our webinars and events will be centered on each mini theme. This quarter, we focus our topics around evolving the norm. Be sure to join the discussion as we facilitate these both virtually and in person. Have you joined our book club yet? This year, we launched our 2022 book club with 6 books to choose from, all by previous keynote speakers the Alliance had at events in 2021. If you love reading books, be sure to head to the website to sign up and join the club. Change is preceded by trust. It is through acceptance and inclusion that trust will be formed and positive impact will occur. The Alliance is committed to creating a safe space in the workers' compensation industry for women of diverse backgrounds and experiences through a shared culture that integrates various perspectives. This is who we are and who we will be. The time to do better and be better is now. The Alliance understands that diversity is a journey that will take time to make meaningful changes for our organization, its followers, and its supporters. We will be intentional in making progress along our key pillars of change. For today's webinar, we are so pleased to have Angie Nuttle, author of Compose Your Soul. Angie is the founder of the School of Executive Presence. She's a 25-year corporate leader turned business owner who went from sacrificing, surviving, and proving herself to realizing her potential and getting serious business results. A working mom of 3 kids, she has figured out how to balance motherhood, marriage, and a whole life outside of work. We would all love to achieve self-actualization, meaningful work, and world peace. And then we wake up to find the daily grind staring at us and getting in the way of our vision. How do you evolve personally while dealing with day-to-day challenges? Today, Angie will discuss decisions you need to make to overcome the status quo, determine who is on your inner executive committee, expose those inner critics on your committee, and the key principles every woman needs to establish to evolve into a vision in progress. As this is a live interactive webinar, please feel free to comment and ask questions throughout the session using the Zoom chat feature on your screen. We will try and answer your questions as time permits, and we love seeing our followers engage throughout these sessions. Thank you again for the time you are spending with us today, and we truly hope you enjoy this webinar.
Everyone, and welcome to the session today. I'm so excited to be with you. I'm Angie Nuttle, and I'm an author, speaker, coach, and teacher. And I love specializing and working especially with corporate and entrepreneurial women. And today our session is Saying No to Status Quo: 5 Self-Guiding Principles to Grow Your Vision in Progress. So I work with corporate women and I help them to focus on mindset, influential communication, and presence. And I also work with entrepreneurial women. I've actually been both. I'm an entrepreneur now, and I have been in the corporate environment for many years. But I help entrepreneurial women to build business from the ground up, including some done-for-you services. And in the course of my journey as a woman in business, I've discovered that women want to do more. Women want to achieve this thing that we call self-actualization. We have goals, we have desires, things that we want to make happen. But then we wake up and we meet the challenges of the day. We've been through a pandemic. We have political upheaval. We have families to take care of. The pressure is really high. And so we find ourselves waking up every day and just continuing to do the same things that we've always done. And over time, we tend to lose hope and lose heart. And in my work with women, I hear that frequently. And so today I want to address that. I want to address that in a big way. So let's just test out the chat. I do like to have participation in chat. So if you would, if you're here on the call today, I'd like for you to say hello, but I'd also like for you to post what it is that you would just absolutely love to do. If you could just be self-actualized, if you could just do anything that you want, what would that be? Go ahead and post that in chat for me so that I can see what you have to say here. All right. And so let me just double check and let me make sure that everybody can hear me. If you can hear me, let me know. And we'll keep going. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for that confirmation. Yeah, so go ahead and post in chat if you will. If you had your choice to do anything, what would that be? All right. And while you're answering that, I'm going to go ahead and just tell you a quick story about where I came up with this idea of vision and progress. You see, I left corporate America after 20 years of working in the defense industry and the healthcare industry. And while I was there, I worked quite a bit with leaders and high potential talent on what I call VIP. And at that time, it stood for visibility, influence, and presence. I coached people on how to create that visibility, how to become influential in business, and also how to show up with presence no matter who's in the room. And as I went into my own business and started my own coaching and consulting firm, I quickly realized that women have very similar challenges, and all women want to be a vision in progress, a VIP. And so I had a double acronym there for the VIP, for corporate women and also for entrepreneurial women. But vision and progress, it's really, it fits all women. All of us want that. And I didn't really realize that I was living in status quo until I came upon an opportunity to buy a brick and mortar. You know, it wasn't something that I was really looking for or expecting, but ultimately buying a brick and mortar to focus on bringing women together through public events, coaching, networking, all of the things that we do here at the VIP Center for Business Women. It took me out of my comfort zone. And as a matter of fact, we're 3 years in and I'm still very much out of my comfort zone. But it caused some tremendous growth to happen as a result of that. And so I want to just share with you today some ways that you can become a vision in progress. And I'm going to give you some self-guiding principles to grow that. And I'm going to be really creative in our session today. So let's just do another chat blast here. And I'm trying to see if we have, okay, I see some answers coming in now. Brandy, you'd love to be a mentor and speak to women overseas. That is an excellent vision to have, a vision in progress that you'd like to get going. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. And the rest of you are welcome to share as well. I think that the chat has been opened up for you. So here's another question for you, and you're welcome to post in chat on this one as well. What does status quo look like in a woman's life? Now, think about this for a moment. What does status quo look like in a woman's life? I'd love to see some answers on that. And it looks like you can use the Q&A to answer that while the chat gets enabled here, and we can start talking more fluidly here. But what comes to mind when you think about status quo and what it looks like in a woman's life? I'll just tell you from my experience, what it looks like is that we're falling in line with routine. We keep dreaming about what we want to do, but we never take the steps to do that because we have legitimate concerns. We have legitimate challenges that are coming up against us. One of the ways that I see status quo is that we just keep repeating the same cycle. We keep doing the same daily grind, and all the while we're getting further and further away from what we really want to do. So while you're answering that question and thinking about that question, I want to share. I want to talk about what gets us stuck in status quo. What is it that causes us to get stuck in status quo? Two common challenges that I see with women that I work with in coaching. First of all, self-confidence challenges and issues, not really thinking that you're strong enough or you're good enough to do the things that you want to do. And then the second thing is putting your values on the back burner. You start letting all of your priorities pile up, and by the time it's all said and done, everything that you value, your values, they're falling to the bottom of the food chain. So incidentally, these two characteristics, self-confidence and putting your values in action, these are two of the top characteristics for women who, or anyone for that matter, to show up with executive presence. There are 10 top characteristics. I've done a tremendous amount of research around this. And those of you who were at the conference last year and got to hear me speak about this, you know what I'm talking about. But these two characteristics are common for people who are showing up with executive presence, and they are becoming visions in progress. So it's no surprise that when we're looking at status quo, these are the two things that women are having the most problem with. And so we want to change that. We want to be able to figure out how to tap into our values. And I'm sure that you've heard people talking about this. I mean, values are always talked about, but values really do drive our decisions. And so we have another pivotal question here. How do you actually get away from status quo? How do you get away from it? It's a big question. How do you evolve through it? Well, I have three decisions, important decisions that you have to make in order to start making that move from status quo to becoming a vision in progress. And the first decision is, number one, you have to decide that you're going to become decisive. Now, that seems pretty simply put, but it really is true. I run across so many people that they are indecisive from day to day. They can't really decide what it is that they want because they're so busy following everybody else's directives and what everybody else wants. And then the confidence issue comes in, and they're afraid that they're going to make a mistake with their decision. So they tend to procrastinate on that decision. Well, if you want to overcome status quo, you've got to become decisive. All right, the second one, you've got to decide to stop operating from a deficit or a comparison mindset. This is a big one that we're going to dig into here in a few moments, but think about your mental processing and the way that you look at the world. Are you constantly just trying to figure out, well, I need this, I don't have this, I need this instead. And so you get into this comparison with other people. Boy, that is detrimental to becoming a vision in progress. Number three, you've got to decide to honor your own boundaries. Easier said than done, but boundaries are critical. And one of the biggest challenges I find for women who are struggling to jump out of that status quo is that they continually violate their own boundaries. And here is the truth: when you are violating your own boundaries, it makes it so much easier for other people to violate your boundaries and ask you to step on those boundaries to accommodate them. So these are three big decisions. Once you decide this, then you can start to move on and make progress. Just like Brandy, you can start moving on to be a mentor, starting to start your plan to speak to women overseas. You can start that plan as long as you make these three decisions. So here's what I want to focus on now. I want to show you how to get there in a very creative mindset kind of way. This is some of the mindset coaching that I do with women. And I've also written about this specifically in my book, Compose Your Soul: How to Turn Your Daily Chaos into Calm Control. And I believe that's in your library from, and I left some books for you all at the conference last year. So here's what we're going to focus on in just the next few minutes here. We're going to talk about something that I love to call your inner executive committee. And it's a way to reframe the way that you're looking at things and start getting some different outcomes. Next, we're going to talk about the inner critics on your committee. So I showed a video when I spoke last year. I've brought that video with me again, and you're going to be able to identify who your inner critics are so that you can kick them off of your committee. And then once I do that, I'll go into the 5 self-guiding principles that you need in order to become a vision in progress and evolve into that. So if you're ready, we're going to get going. And let me just do a quick check here to see if we have any comments in chat. I see that chat is now officially working, so that's fantastic. So I'd love to see you all saying hello in the chat for me. All right, let's get going. Let's get going. So I want to talk about inner executive committee. You may be saying, what is that? I have no idea. Oh, I see all the hellos coming in. I just want to acknowledge you all here. Hi there, ladies. Good to see you. Janelle, Shelley, Siobhan, Paige, Kelly, Paula, Wendy, Kelly number 2, Sandy. Very good. Thank you, Wendy. I see everybody's jumping on. Thanks so much. Good to know that you are out there. I've got some goodies for you right now. So let's talk about your inner executive committee here. Let me move some of these things out of my screen's way. Hopefully you can see the screen very clearly. So here's the deal about your inner executive committee. Every person has one of these. And this inner executive committee has some key elements to it. First of all, there is one decision-making seat, and that sits at the head of your committee table. It's your board table. This decision maker helps drive the direction of where you are going as a woman in your personal life, in your business life, in your relationships, everything. So you also have a number of committee members. Now, these committee members, they all want to be in the seat, right? Every member has a name, and every member wants to drive. Every member wants to be in that decision-making seat. And so, but only one at a time can really be in that decision-making seat and drive this train here. All right, well, I'm going to elaborate more on this and tell you how to figure out who's on your inner executive committee. but I've got to introduce you, first of all, to someone that you all know, and that's your inner critic. And that inner critic is always looking for a seat at your table. That inner critic wants to move up closer to that decision-making seat and start influencing your decisions. And you know that there's an inner critic there because that inner critic is usually operating from that deficit mindset. And it's just constantly trying to be like a wrecking ball and try to knock you back down to size is the mindset that it has. So I want to just take a moment and give you a chance to think about and identify which are your biggest inner critics. So I'm going to play the video, and as you see the inner critics that resonate with you the most, post on your line which ones are giving you the most trouble right now. All right, so here we go.
I'm smelling a bit of incompetency around here. Incompetency. I believe that you are incompetent. Someone call the competency police. Did anyone ever tell you that life sucks? I'm here to discourage you so that you just don't go out and do something. You need to stop what you're doing. You're never going to be successful. Stop it. You're an idiot.
Must control everything. Everything is getting out of control. I have to control it. I have to control it. Can you take care of that for me? Oh, wait, let me show you how to do it. Here's how you do it. Well, just let me go ahead and do it. What are you doing here? I don't think you fit. I'm the excluder. The world would be so perfect if you could just do everything so perfectly. You must be perfect. Remember to be perfect, and everything will be perfect. You will have a perfect life and a perfect family. Excuse me, you're forgetting to be perfect. Don't forget. You must be perfect. You must be perfect. I told you to be perfect. Perfect.
Oh my God, what are you doing here? You're an imposter. These people are so much smarter than you. You just need to leave and go home.
Yep, you should have checked to make sure you had everything before you left, but you didn't. You should have, but you didn't. You know you should have helped those people. I mean, they are helpless and they're relying on you. You should be ashamed of yourself.
You gotta keep producing. Keep going. Keep doing more and more. Doing more and more. Keep doing more stuff. Yeah, that's it. More stuff. You're not enough. You can't do enough, so you gotta keep doing more so you can finally be enough. And then you can tell Mary that she needs to get up off of her butt and do something.
So I see Megan is right off the bat micromanager and perfectionist. Jennifer is Mary Martha, move it. Yeah. For Abby, incompetency in the micromanager. We've got the imposter. For Sandy, Wendy's got the perfectionist. Kelly, you're saying a combo, depending on the day. Shelley, wow, several apparently. Micromanager, perfectionist, excluder. Yeah, Janelle, you agree with Kelly. Siobhan is saying all of the above, a little bit of everything. Yeah, we probably see a little bit of these every day in some form or fashion because they're all like cousins and sisters and brothers, right? And they're inbred and they just feed off of each other so much. I see here, so Paula, imposter, busy, all of them. Brandy is perfectionist. Paige, you're saying a little bit of everything. Yeah, all of us face these, all of these deal with these inner critics, and these inner critics they're pretty formidable opponents to us reaching that vision and progress, to getting to that VIP status that we want to get to. And so we've got to be able to Let me hit that pause. Hold on just a minute. There we go. So here's what I want to tell you about inner critics. They cause you to operate in a deficit mindset. So these are the biggest culprits in terms of making you think that you don't have. And so normally inner critics will drive you to say, I don't have, and then you can fill in the blank. And if you want to in chat, you can even fill in that blank. You know, what is it that an inner critic drives you to say? I don't have enough money. I don't have enough love. I don't have the skills, right? So the inner critics will get you stuck in that mindset, and they are continually trying to get a seat on your inner executive committee. Well, the good news is that you can use your inner executive committee to squeeze those inner critics out. And so I want to set the stage correctly with your committee by letting you know that every single member on your committee is a combination of 4 things: values, pre-written code. And when I say pre-written code, what I mean is your brain is wired a certain way. Some of us are more analytical and more quality driven, tend to be more introverted. Some of us are more go-getters, action oriented, no fluff bottom liners. Others of us are more relationship driven. We're all about harmony and relationship and people. And then some of us are more responsive, on our feet, charismatic, quick to think about solutions. So there are all these different ways that our brains are wired differently. And so that is a part of your inner executive committee. Also, certain behaviors and characteristics. Some things we have learned. We have learned some behaviors. We have taken on some characteristics, and it feeds in from our pre-written code and our values. And then we also have pre-existing conditions. So we'll go over this here in just a moment so you get a really clear picture of what I'm talking about. So the other thing, let's see here. The good news is you get to creatively name your members. This is the fun part. And just in case you forgot from the other 25 times that I told you, inner critics, they really try to hijack. They try to get in there on that decision-making position, and you've got to be able to manage them and kick them out and recognize when they're showing up. The good news is that you have the power to decide. You really live in choice. Every day you live in choice as to what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. So you do have the power. All right, so let's look at where our power comes from. So these are the 4 areas that I was just sharing with you. Let's talk about your values, because your values, they truly do drive your decisions and what's important to you. Every single decision that you make, there's usually a value behind it. Now, we have 2 different kinds of values. One of those is more of a foundational value. That is a value that it just kind of runs your operations, your personal operations, but if it's absent, then it's very, very painful. So an example of a foundational value might be harmony, for example. So if you are a person who loves harmony and you are faced with a situation where there's lots of conflict, you're super uncomfortable. Well, you know that's a foundational value because it hurts because it's absent. But there's a second kind of value. It's called your inspirational values. Now, these are the values that give you extra energy. They get you out of bed every day, and they give you more. You just want to do more, and you lose track of time. So one of those might be creativity, for example. I'm a creative person. I love creativity. When I'm doing something creative, then I lose track of time. I just put a lot of energy into it, and it just has me hopping around like the Energizer bunny rabbit. So that is the value segment where you get a lot of your power. And by the way, if you want to, you're welcome to post in chat. Maybe you have a certain value that drives a lot of what you do. So maybe it is harmony, one of those foundational values. Maybe you have a big value around responsiveness. That's something that's really important to me. I like to be responsive, and I like for people to respond to me. And so I get really impatient when they don't. So you're welcome to share any of those values that you have on your line. Now, the second area, your written code, and I mentioned that this is the way that your brain is wired and how you're predisposed to think. I just got off of a coaching clinic with a bunch of ladies. We were talking about this very thing. And I have an assessment. It's called the Color Success Signals Assessment. You can either be a brown, a green, a red, or a blue. And so these are basically the four components, the way that your brain is wired. And you have a tendency to think a certain way. And it's not that you don't have any of those others. You do have those other parts of your brain, but there's one that you like to lean on. So that's your written code. And then we have behaviors and characteristics. So think about some of the habits that you have. What are some of the habits that you have, some of your personality traits? I have people tell me, wow, you're kind of a quirky gal. Or they'll tell me, I'm very artistic and I like to just take nothing and turn it into something. So these habits and your personality traits, they really determine and drive how you influence the world. And then we've got those pre-existing conditions. So this is a big driver for us. This is that we get a lot of power and a lot of influence from pre-existing conditions. And these are what I like to call your past memorable milestones. And you can have some of these that are really positive memories and milestones, and then you have some that are not so positive and may have really changed the way that you handle things. So, for example, I was in foster care as a child, and I really felt many times like a second class or a third class citizen as a foster child. I mean, I just felt treated differently. I never really felt like I fit anywhere. And so that became a pre-existing condition for me over really the first half of my life. I just felt like I didn't fit anywhere. I wouldn't stay in a job for longer than a couple of years because I could do great things and be a super achiever. But when I started feeling like I didn't fit, then I felt like I had to leave the job, or it took me realizing that pre-existing condition was working in my life, that I needed to do something about it. And so I was able to shift the way that I looked at it. But you probably have some pre-existing conditions too. Could be that, you have a pre-existing condition that at the table, you believe in being at the table for dinner time. That's the way that your family grew up. And so to not be at the table is really uncomfortable. It drives your routine right now. You could have a pre-existing condition around your value harmony. You might look at harmony at the table as everybody's getting along and nobody's arguing. Whereas somebody else might have come up in an environment where if you had challenges, you talked about them at the dinner table to work through them, and that brought harmony. So you see, pre-existing conditions, it takes a little time to really dig into those. So I do encourage you to take a snapshot if you can take a screenshot of this, because ultimately you want to take all four of these components and dig into it. You're going to need this information to do what I show you next, okay? So let's see here. Got a little bit of a delay. One moment, please. There we go. Yeah, all of these facets, they create your inner executive committee. All right. And so here's the beautiful thing about this. It's based on what you have, not what you don't have. Remember that sneaky executive or inner critic wants to get you always focused on what you don't have. And so that causes you to fall back into status quo and stops you from evolving. So we want to shut that thing down, and we want to focus on what we have. All of these things that we have, all 4 of these areas, we have these. Nobody can take this away from us. We will always have this. And so we can be confident in this. So how do you create your inner executive committee members? I'm going to give you some examples, okay? A couple of examples of my committee members. So my first one here is crisis manager. So I named her crisis manager. This is a picture of me. I was in Iraq. I worked over there for 3 years as an HR defense contractor. That was quite an experience. And I talk about this all the time whenever I'm keynoting or just talking to groups. But I was one of 16 females on my base when I first went over in 2004. And it was a very volatile environment, as you could imagine. And so not only was I in physical danger from being in a war zone, but I also had some challenges with my male colleagues who were struggling to cope with the stress of being over there. And so they were taking that out on me, and it was a really difficult situation. But the good news is I learned how to handle that crisis, and crisis manager was born over there, and I proved myself. I didn't have to prove myself, but I gained respect because I was a very quick, responsive problem solver who dealt with things very quickly. And you can see in this picture here, I'm holding, can't see it very well, but I'm holding a piece of shrapnel. And that piece of shrapnel, it can kill people. We were in a meeting, and that we were under a mortar attack while we were in the meeting, and that landed just about a foot from our building. And so I was responsible for evacuating everybody out and getting them into the bunker as the senior leader there. And so really that was a pivotal point. And so crisis manager became a member on my inner executive committee. So as you can see here, we can take all 4 of those blocks that I just showed you, and I'm telling you, okay, here's crisis manager, and here's what she values. She values responsiveness, she values reassurance, and she values restoration. Bringing things back to order, dealing with it quickly. And so written code, we have all kinds of assessments out there, but I'm an ENTP for those of you who are familiar with the MBTI. Also, Strengths Finder, I'm an activator, strategic, and achiever. So that all works under here in the crisis manager. So in terms of behaviors and characteristics, crisis manager thinks on her feet. She's a quick problem solver. And then my pre-existing condition was what I call the mad dad syndrome. So I don't know about you, but when I was a kiddo, my dad was a tough guy. I loved him. He loved me. But boy, I had to have answers, and I had to think quickly on my feet if I didn't want to get my butt beat, because he would get out that belt and tear me up if I made a mistake or if I didn't have the answer. And so that taught me at a young age that I needed to respond. So all of these 4 blocks here, it creates my crisis manager. So while I was in Iraq, crisis manager sat in that decision-making seat quite a bit. Okay, I'm going to give you a second example here. And I hope that right now you're formulating in your mind what some of your inner executive committee members would be, because this is really just designed to help you spark that thought. Another one of my inner executive committee members is Madam CEO. So when I was many years ago, when I was going through my first coaching certification, I got certified through Coaches Training Institute. My certifying coaches gave me this name, Madam CEO, because they could see these different attributes about me. And so Madam CEO values action. She values competence. She is a confident woman. She's very decisive. She doesn't play around with decisions. She is also, in terms of written code, she's very strategic. She's a thinker. She's an activator. So there's that activator again. So you can see that some of these things can bleed over into other, they can overlap. Behaviors and characteristics. So very methodical, serious, fiercely independent. I also have, she has a nickname, and I also call her Aretha Franklin, because Madam CEO is Aretha Franklin too. She demands respect. But pre-existing conditions, Madam CEO, my foster care experience, I had a lot of alone time, so that gave me lots of time to think about things and come up with strategies and become decisive about what I was doing. So Madam CEO she is another one that she's in the seat more frequently now in my life. And so all of these different characteristics make up these characters. All right, so here's something that I want you to write down, because we're in this session together, but I want you to take some time to do some reflection. And I know that we don't have that time for the course of this. So here's another thing that you can also take another screenshot of. And as soon as I can get it going. So here, I've got 3 questions for you to write down or do the screenshot. Can you identify one of your inner executive committee members? I've walked through some examples and maybe something came to mind. You're welcome to post that right now in chat if you've already got one boiling in your mind. Could be Dr. Danger, or could be, I mean, it could be a number of names and it doesn't have to be a fancy name. I like to, when I'm naming the inner executive committee members, you have a lot of flexibility. This is you. You get to decide. You're the one who holds the power. So it could be it could even just be the name of a value. Respect, for example. I have a high value for respect, and so it drives a lot of what I do. So Megan, you say the mom, always taking care of everyone around me. I'm not even a mom in real life. That is excellent. That's a great inner executive committee member that you recognize. So mom's gonna have a seat one way or another. Sometimes mom will get into the driver's seat and drive all the decisions, right? So Natasha, you're in agreement with Megan. You've got the mom on yours as well. Well, I am a mother too. I have 3 children. I've got a 34-year-old, a 33-year-old, and a 14-year-old. And I've got 2 twin grandbabies on the way. And then I have 2 grandchildren that are 13 and 7. So they're all over. So I can relate to the mom. I'm the mom Nana is what I am. So Abby, the principal, the dean. Oh, that sounds interesting. Oh, yes. Love that. I love that you're already identifying, pushing the boundaries for better. I love it. See, you're already getting into that creative mind. All right, let's go on to the next thing that you need to look at, and that is, how does this committee member help you? So think about it. If I think about crisis manager, my crisis manager, she solves problems very quickly. She's got a lot of ingenuity. She can come up with it very fast, and she can get resolution very quickly. So think about, how does this committee member really help you? And then which inner critic do you have to manage? So here's the thing about your committee members. They all have a vulnerable spot where an inner critic can come in and wreak havoc. So for example, crisis manager. So the inner critic will come in, I'll have an inner critic come in and the competency police, for example. That's one of my inner critics, competency police. You gotta be competent at it. You gotta know what you're doing. And so if I'm in a situation where I don't know how to handle it immediately, here comes the competency police and say, well, you don't even know how to do this, right? So the inner critic will just start talking to you and talking down to you. So, so Abby, you're talking about the principal dean sees both sides, digests information, comes to a resolution for all. So that's how she helps you. That's excellent, excellent. Megan, for yours, you plan ahead, think of what may come up, have a plan in place no matter what. Critic comes in when there's a blind spot I miss, even though I thought I had a plan for. Oh, that's so true. Yeah. Those inner critics will come in and they will try to eat you alive. That is a great example for sure. So we know that we're going to have to manage inner critics. One of the quickest ways to do that is to identify as many of your inner executive committee members as you can. Now, I'm still learning. I have some key members that I tend to call on as my super secret panel, but I've discovered that I have other members. And so some of those members are like, since I've had a building and I had to decorate it, I have this inner executive committee member that is all about aesthetics and beauty, that everything has to be beautiful and aesthetically pleasing, and it has to be perfect and in place, and nothing can be out of place. So I'm still trying to figure out what to do with that one, but that one will get me in trouble and keep me working so that I can't spend time with my family. So I'm still working on these myself. Okay, so I know that we're getting to the end of our session, so I do want to go ahead and give you the 5 self-guiding principles that are going to help you to continue to build your vision and progress, to get out of status quo and to start identifying these inner executive committee members and just breaking through this and utilizing this power that you really have. Okay, so our very first one is something we've already been talking about. Shift your focus to what you have versus what you don't have. The moment you catch yourself thinking about, well, I don't have this, or I'm missing this, you need to have a check in your spirit right then, like, oh, okay, wait a minute. That's the inner critic. That inner critic is working on me, so I need to shift. What inner executive committee member am I going to call on? What values am I going to, what do I have? I mean, even just asking yourself, hey, what is it that I do have in this situation? And you just flip that perspective. Number 2, allow yourself to have a vision that defines what you want, not what you think others will approve of. Now, I'll tell you that my coaching clients and all of the women that I've worked with, when they have that value of harmony, which a lot of them do, harmony and responsibility, those are 2 foundational values that a lot of us have. They tend to just try to please other people. And so this is where that decisiveness comes in. Okay, what is it that I want? And you can help people when you're operating in your vision. That's when you can truly help people, not when you're trying to just run around and people please. Number 3, dig deeper. I'm going to say this again, dig deeper to uncover your values and bring forth the ones you've been putting on the back burner. So this really requires you to do some assessing of your values and deciding what really are my values. I hear people say all the time, oh, well, my first value is family. Well, check yourself on that and see if that's really true. Are you staying late and working every night and so you're not hardly seeing your family? That tells me that you're valuing something more over family, or it could be harmony. You're doing that because everybody wants you to stay late, for example. So you see, we've got to get to some depth around your values and get to the real values that are driving your decisions. Number 4, recognize that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. That's actually a scripture. I'm a faith-based woman, and that is a value that I shut down for a long time to make everybody else happy. But I realized once I unleashed that and let that be known, it was just such a relief, and it led me to connect with women that I might not have otherwise connected with in my line of work. So you've got to embrace your written code and trust that you are a unique puzzle piece. You know, I told you that I was in foster care and I had that complex, that pre-existing condition, like I just didn't fit. The revelation that I had about that was that none of us are designed to fit. We're all designed to be a unique puzzle piece. Even if you have this, similar values to someone, you are very unique. There's no one like you. And so you've got to trust that you are uniquely made and you fit in the puzzle, and no one's cut like you, and no one will ever be cut like you. And then number 5, give yourself time off to reflect and understand your inner executive committee. Then start putting them in the correct seats and kick out those inner critics. Now, I saved this one for last because this is what I'm challenging you to do. I'm challenging you to challenge your own status quo, giving yourself time off. And that means getting away from your office, wherever you're working, giving your time away, just even, just a day from everybody and everything, and really dig in to these 4 areas that I showed you that make up your inner executive committee, and do some deep diving on how your inner critics are getting into that committee and trying to make their way to the decision maker's seat. So those are the 5 self-guiding principles that I have for you today. I do want to give you a goodie, and it is a chapter out of my book. It's from my book, Compose Your Soul, How to Turn Your Daily Chaos into Calm Control. And this is a chapter on your pre-existing conditions. This is a really important thing that a lot of women don't realize, that they have pre-existing conditions until they start to dig into them. So you can go to this link right here and you'll be able to download this and start reading it online right away. And this will help you in your work to overcome the status quo. You can also connect with me in a few different ways here. I've just got a couple of these. You can go to my website at angienuttle.com. I do have a resources page there where you can get some resources. And then you can also connect with me at vipcenter.works. And I assume that most women, I'm making an assumption that most of you are corporate or you work for someone else. So there's a corporate page for you, but you can go to www.vipcenter.works and you can learn all about the VIP Center and how we support women from all over the United States to learn to be purposeful and profitable in business. So that's what I have for you today. I do want to see if anybody has any questions or comments here. Oh, Sandy, thank you so much. I love that. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Megan, thank you. Yeah, my necklace. I'm a necklace person and I have all kinds of them. I'm a bargain hunter, and a lot of times I get them from Ross Dress for Less. That's my favorite place to shop. Oh, goodness. All right. We have to find ways to jazz up these Zooms. Yep, that's right, sister. Thank you, Larissa. Appreciate that. Paula, thank you so much for being with me. Brandy, you want one? Go to Ross Dress for Less. All right, Siobhan, thank you so much for that page. All right, ladies. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being on the call today. And I hope to see you downloading your free ebook. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye-bye.